Good morning and Happy New Year. Happy 2020. Happy new decade. I'm Mandy Brenham, host of the full-time show, the show, The Full-Time Investor, coming to you live today, January 2nd of a new decade. Pretty excited. You know what? But I've had some nice time over the holidays, and I hope for you that same kind of breath of relaxation, breath of clarity to be able to say where we're going in this new year. And I have two gentlemen here who are a breath of fresh air, certainly being able to share with us some different tips, some different angles on investing. So I have Randy Millard and Steve Aronson from the RI Investors, the RE Investors. Am I saying that right?
Be the reinvestors.
Reinvestors. I knew there was something about that. You guys have a group. You are from BC. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your individual stories, but how you've come to be the reinvestors?
Yeah, I'll start. So together we create the reinvestors, and nice, a little coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. So about 3 years ago, we went through the joint stuff that we've done of Keyspire.
Yeah.
And we really just wanted to find better ways. I just watched my parents struggle with a bit of finances, but own their house and have a lot of equity in it. I watched one of my friends, he unfortunately passed away, and I watched his girlfriend struggle, but still have her house. And so I knew there was a better way to live life than just working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Just Googled how to make a ton of money and not work, and found Keyspire. I found real estate investing, started studying it, found Keyspire, told Steve about it and said, dude, we got to go after this and see if it's something we can do. At the time, Steve was one of the only other guys that owned a house as well. And so we together just said, hey, let's see what can happen, and went after it, and have now since realized that there was a lack of group setting and support for real estate investors, mainly in Western Canada, primarily where we are on Vancouver Island. And so we decided to create a meetup group from it, and have just since brought in various names of speakers, everybody that you could imagine for the team that you need, from mortgage brokers to real estate agents, accountants, lawyers, past speakers, things like that, and have been able to bring them in to share that with our amazing community that we've created now inside here in Victoria.
Wow. So the education side of it. So you must have reflected on your last decade, but really you're talking 3 years that this has kind of gone on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay, next side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to compact everything into just a 30-second little elevator story on pitching, but the coolest part about it is that, we didn't really have a whole lot of resources at our fingertips when we started, and the struggle was real, and what we wanted to pass on was the knowledge that we found. And like, we both we both knew that real estate was going to be something that we wanted to do for the rest of our lives when we jumped into this. And so we've been tracking and monitoring everything that we've been doing, and we've been just giving back that information and that knowledge and stuff back to our community here, because we're just so passionate about helping people, and this is something that we know will help future generations. So to summarize, our mission statement is that we want to financially educate 1 million people and then inspire them to live a more fulfilled life through investing in real estate. So
financially educate 1 million people.
Hit it, buddy.
Yeah, it's our mission was to financially educate 1 million people, to inspire them to invest in real estate so that they can live a more fulfilled life. And a lot of that came from, again, watching my parents and all these people struggle. It was just financial education. When it came down to it, it was, they didn't understand the advantages of lines of credit, that they could use equity from their homes, that they could actually just start understanding how to get smarter in the finance industry. Mm-hmm. And that would allow them to be able to actually make some improvements in their life. If you can borrow money at 3 and 4%, but go invest it and get 12 to 15%, then that's a very good ROI, and becomes an infinite return on investment when it's the bank's money that you're playing with anyways. So we thought the biggest thing we have to do is just financially educate as many people as we can. Then we want to inspire them to invest in real estate by doing what we do. As we are active investors ourselves, we do buy a lot of properties and have a lot of fun with it. So we wanted to inspire them to invest in the real estate. And then the living the more fulfilled life part was actually around, we're a part of a conference called Thrive, Make Money Matter.
Tell us about that.
And it's all about Basically, how can you make as much money as you can in your life while using it for a better purpose?
Okay.
So the guy that founded it, his name's Cole Hatter, and he's all about for-purpose businesses. Basically, it's like, if you want to learn how to make $1 million a year, that's like a financial freedom number for you. Build a business that can actually make $2 million and then donate $1 million away. And so when we went into that conference, we've been a part of their mastermind now for about 3 years. And so when we were a part of that, we're like, that's really what thrives us. Like, that's really what pushes us and motivates us. The fancy cars and fancy houses isn't necessarily something that's like huge on our priority list, but writing a check to charities or organizations in need is something that just lights us up like nothing else. So that's the, living the more fulfilled life on the back end of our mission statement is actually like, hey, we actually have to teach people how to make money, inspire them and encourage them to do it, and then actually give them the option to invest in organizations or charities that actually make them happy. So we're literally buying happiness through real estate investing.
So you want to educate 1 million people. Tell me about the unlocking of, say, a typical student. I know with this online stuff there, people are saying you need to hear things like 7 to 15 times before you start to go, wait a minute, my brother's talked about it. I've seen it online. This crazy girl, Mandy, keeps talking about real estate. Here's Randy and Steve. I've got to start to listen. How are you connecting to these people to start to unlock them to the understanding, say that what your parents and grandparents taught you isn't wrong, but now I don't want to encourage you to have a mortgage that's paid off. Here are some new ways to be able to go about it. Kind of teach us a little bit.
Go for it.
Yeah, so it's been really fun for us, really exploring that option. It really started when we started sitting down with people and explaining to them what their actual options were and showing them like, hey, it doesn't have to be like the past. And a prime example, I'll just use my parents because it's such an easy example. I've been working with them for a few years to get to this point. They owned their house. And so when you sat down with them and said, hey, you guys own your home, virtually you're getting nothing on the equity that you're sitting in your home. If we can actually unlock that, we call it dead money now. So the equity in your home is actually dead money if it's just sitting there. And so when you walk them through the process of how to actually unlock that money, go get the refinance and invest it, they start seeing that concept of, oh yeah, like the money that's sitting in my home actually isn't doing anything for me. It's actually losing money with inflation and all that kind of stuff. Obviously the home's appreciating, but you're losing money on that money that's not making you anything. So when we start walking them through that process, you see that like spark click in their face and they're like, oh, I get it. Like I'm actually losing 6 or 7% because I'm not investing it, because I can pull it out at 4 and invest it at 10. There's a 6% difference there. I'm actually losing 6% by not doing that. And then we just take that to a larger scale when we stand in front of stages at our meetups and the podcasts we get on, and we run a community as well, similar to yourself, about real estate investing. And just bringing that awareness out there and continuously dripping the exact same information just in 1 million different ways is actually the keys to it. One of our buddies, Yahya Bakar, always says every message needs a different messenger.
Okay.
And so it doesn't, and that's where we come from, an abundance mindset in this space. There's a lot of people that educate in real estate and a lot of people that do it differently. And every message needs a different messenger. So sometimes when we deliver something, it might sit better with my parents than maybe if you were to. And that's something that we're realizing as well, is that our mission to financially educate 1 million people isn't just Steve and I sitting here trying to one-on-one coach people. It's actually bringing awareness like this and saying, hey, here's someone like Mandy who's absolutely crushing the game, that has a style that works and is obviously performing very well. Maybe someone listening to us might not understand the way we speak it, but they might understand the way you speak it. So that's really why we're excited to expand and grow in 2020 in that way. More collaboration, more support for people, and just trying to get that awareness out there, because it's all the same, very similar principles and concepts that aren't huge. They're just a little bit tinier, but all of us have the exact same concept, just different ways of explaining it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how many people have you touched so far?
We're actually in the middle of tracking this metric. It's something we're going to start doing more in 2020. Through our meetup group, we have about 60 to 70 people on a monthly basis come through. And we have about a 30% turnover rate every month. So we put about over 500 people through our meetup last year, which was cool. We've got a decent audience size on Facebook, and through there. So it's a number that's hard to track that way, as well as financial partners and things like that. So that's a metric that we're actually going to start tracking this year, is how we're keeping track of that million people. It started as just a statement and a goal of like, hey, 1 million people. And then now we're at that point where we have some good mentors and help saying, okay, how are you going to track that million? And, trying to get to 1 million joint venture partners is going to be hard. So it's really understanding what does it mean to financially educate somebody. And that's the systems and processes we're actually working on today, of how can we start tracking who comes to our meetup, who sees our videos, who sees our stuff, and what does that number actually look like?
Well, you could probably, look at that. Natasha just posted, she's here. You could probably add another 18 because there's been 18 people watching that you've been educating them along this way. So that's awesome. Yeah. So what about the difference between, you're out on Vancouver Island, I'm here in Ontario. Do you have any differences that that would change in your education side of things, or that, it might be a little bit different province to province? Are you guys just out there? Like, just tell me a little bit about that side of things.
Yeah, so BC is its own beast, right? I'm a bit of a economics geek. So, when we talk about economics, there are macroeconomics, global, North America, Canada based, and then province to province to province, and then city to city, et cetera. And so every province has their different rules. So BC versus Ontario, some of our tenancy pieces are different. Some of our tax pieces are different. So I think in the education space, there's a little bit of differences. I think the bigger, or like the most obvious difference, is just the barrier to entry. Like in the parts of Ontario, like just using like London or that Southwest Ontario space, you can buy a duplex for 60 grand and make $1,000 a month on or something. Like that. What's that?
200.
200 grand?
200.
Okay.
Now, I mean, that would be like base, and you would have lots of people looking at it. But Windsor, no 60,000. No, not yet. Not right. Not anymore. Not that I'm in that market, but certainly not quite that low. Right.
But out here in BC, like on the island here, like you gotta times that by 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes. And so I think that's one of the harder pieces, is showing people like how to take advantage of different elements of real estate that suit BC well. And so a piece of that is that we have some appreciation in some different securities. We have a lot of different industries supporting us here on the island. So tech has actually become one of our biggest or our biggest industry here in Victoria, BC. And then tourism, government, high amount of immigration. And so understanding all those economic basics can really help people feel a little bit more secure in their investment. And so if you're sitting there in, let's say, it doesn't matter where you are, and you're trying to compare an investment between, Windsor or Victoria, for example, one of those pieces that you have to weigh is how much am I needing to invest into it? What's my barrier to entry, and what's my return out of it, right? So a lot of times people get concerned about having a higher barrier to entry here. But there's lots of different pieces, like the economic factors behind it. And then we can still find really great cash flow here, even though some people say you can't. It's just talking to the right people, making sure that you're active, and being able to act quick out this way.
So passive investors to be joint venture partners, passive investors to do various different kind of mortgages, or passive investors to do it in another province. Same type of education. Where do you go to share with somebody the difference between being an active investor and a passive investor?
Yeah, it really depends on what their motives are and what their missions are. We're actually working with a few people right now. A lot of people come to us and say, hey, I've got X amount of dollars. What do I do? Do I buy a house and do it myself? Do I partner with someone? Do I just put it into passive income? And it all depends on what they're looking for. So we really walk them through the process of, okay, this is what our day-to-day looks like. And I'm sure you know all about this: managing properties, dealing with tenants, finding the deals, having the relationships with all the real estate agents across the town, and being on the pulse. And that's kind of what Steve was talking about. Like, we can see deals differently. We can get things in a little bit differently. We're in a higher market, but because we can negotiate very well as investors, we can actually find good deals. So that's where people really need to understand of, do you want to be active and do what we do on a day-to-day basis as full-time investors? Or do you just want to park your money somewhere and get somewhere between that 10, 12, 14% and be super satisfied just collecting a paycheck and not having to do anything? My parents, again, for example, have no interest in being landlords, have no interest in looking at real estate, but are very interested in just investing some money so that they can sit back and collect checks. And that's a cool concept to them. So they would be more on the passive side. They have no interest in being on the active side. Whereas we have some other investors that are, contractors or trades guys that can do the renovations, that are like, hey, all I need is a little bit of help and advice on how to do property management, how to get the right tenants in, and how to make things work. Can you teach me about that? So then we'll teach them on the property management and the acquisition side, but they still want to do it themselves. So they're just doing it 100% their own. And then on the other side, we have some people that want to be a little bit more involved, and we come in as different partnership structures. The beauty of a JV is you can create it any way you want.
Anyway.
So we do a lot of just different partnerships that way, where sometimes we'll just come on as smaller partners just to help and educate, to make sure that they're just feeling a little bit more secure, safe with their investment if they don't understand it.
And I think that's why communities like this, and I think you have a local meetup as well, as do we. I think that's why they're so important, is because people might look at like the three of us and be like, all right, yeah, sure, they can do it because they have some sort of special gift. Whereas when you start coming to like our meetups or like Facebook communities like this, you start seeing that it's not just like three people up on a pedestal. There's actually many other people in the community doing these different things. And although we might be focusing on like small multi-families, other people in our community might be focusing on just like single family homes or condos, executive rentals, that kind of stuff. So you get to learn other people's skill sets and different tactics and that kind of stuff. And instead of just like one focused route, you get many different people coming together to support each other.
Tell me about your last deal.
Our last deal?
Yeah, I'd love to hear and feel your excitement about the deal that you brought to the table with somebody.
So our last deal was a Christmas present. We got keys December 27th.
Awesome.
And it is a triplex. It's just out of downtown. I don't know what you call that place, like Tolney Park area or something. And we got it for $755.
Okay.
And it was, the upstairs was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and then there's 2 downstairs, 1-bedroom, 1-baths. It needs a little bit of loving. So the upstairs, we're doing a renovation basically starting right now. We've had contractors go through there the last month to get everything that we need put in place and create a plan for what kind of renovations we're doing. So we're adding a bathroom or powder room. We're doing some minor updating, painting cabinetry, new countertops, new appliances, some new flooring, painting everything to make it feel fresh, new and modern. And then we'll be renting it out. So it was actually really interesting in the sense that this particular property had been on the market for about 119 days before we went and saw it. Okay. And it was actually a complete accident that we saw it. We were talking to one of our students and we were like, all right, like it was their first call with us. And so he said, all right, I'm going to show you how I look at an MLS deal. So he just popped up on realtor.ca, typed in like suite or something like that into the search. And this is one of the first properties we saw. We clicked it. We were scrolling through. I was talking while I was looking at all the different pictures and stuff. And they were listening. And at the end of it, we're like, this one actually kind of makes sense. Let's go take a look at it. And so we went and did a walkthrough with our realtor. And we're like, all right, this is sweet. Like, is this still on the market? What's going on here? Why has it been on the market for 119 days? And a lot of people, when they see that, especially in today's market where like a 60-day property is like, okay, like that's almost taboo because there's got to be something wrong with it. And so we just did our due diligence, and a lot of our really great deals have just come because of follow-up.
Okay.
This one was around the same. The financing challenges in today's market are impacting a lot of people. And it had 2 or 3 deals collapse due to financing. And there's no other like big issues with the building or anything along those lines. All the numbers there are consistent and they work. And so we were just right time, right place. And we did our follow-up with the other side, the listing party. And Bob's your uncle.
Talk to me a little bit about the numbers. What was it listed at?
It was listed at $799.
And you got it for $755?
Sorry, $775 is what we got it for.
$775.
And so we're going 20% down.
Yep.
We should get about $2,400 for the upstairs, about $1,100 for really safe numbers for the 2 downstairs units.
Yep.
So
and what's your renovation budget?
Our rental budget's about 30.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
1 unit that was vacant?
1 unit that was vacant.
1 unit that was vacant. What are vacancy rates like for you? And is that a factor that you guys look at when you're looking at rental properties? How do I get them vacant? I know one little aspect that people go, oh my God, I found a great deal. I just need to have vacant possession. And you're like, that's 4 families, 4 people's lives that you're hoping to make your pocketbook look good. So what's the vacancy like out with you guys, and how does that affect the purchases that you make?
Yeah, vacancy is tough out here. It's, just as tight as it's ever been. So it's probably just over 1% right now for the Victoria area. And, the Tenancy Act rules out in BC, I think are kind of similar to Ontario, but it's not like you can just walk in the building. Like some places in Canada, like in Alberta, you can just walk in there and go like, here's your notice, get out. I'm increasing the rent by $500. And you can't do that here. And I don't think that we necessarily want to either, because that's disrupting 4 different families or 3 different families, like you said. And so getting into right deals where there's other in a tenancy coming up or notice that's already given, or what do you call them, primary residences where people are selling and leaving. Those are where you want to focus your time on, and this particular one was exactly that. And
will you refinance this?
Will we? We won't be able to right away.
Okay.
I don't think the renovations that we'll do will increase the value enough.
Okay.
But we've done like burst strategies before.
Yeah.
Where like our favorite one was a 5-plex that was just out of downtown in Vic West area, which is a really great up and coming neighborhood for anybody watching in Victoria. And we bought it cash, did 200 and change thousand in renovations, went back to the bank. And because we didn't have any mortgage on it, but we had a great performing asset, we were then in like the position of power, right? So we basically got to dictate our terms with the lender, and they gave us like 95% of our money back, and the product still cash flows extremely well.
Round of applause. That's awesome. That's the kind of deals that we all look for, but sometimes they don't all present the same way. And so I actually like hearing the stories of having to go back and look at things again and again and really communicate with both sides, seeing opportunity where others might not see it before. Not being afraid. Don't be scared away because something's been on the market for 119 days.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you want to look at.
And that's something that I just want to hammer home to people that are maybe watching is like all of our deals have basically come on collapsed offers right now. Like that's a big thing that we're seeing. Just because we're in such a hot market, that we'll go look at something probably overpriced typically right now, and then we will just stay persistent with our follow-up, hoping that the offer collapses. And we're seeing a lot of trends on when offers collapse and when we follow up and things like that. But what we're actually doing is letting our agents know, and they're trained for this now, so that as we go look at something, we put it on our spreadsheet, we write down, okay, we looked at it this day. Are we interested in it? Yes. Are we going to make an offer? No. Are we going to follow up? Yes. And then we'll get our agent to follow up. Hey, if it gets an offer, they'll say, when are subjects to be removed? We'll put that date in. We'll go back 1 day before subject removals and say, hey, we'll get our agent to call and say, hey, how's the offer looking? Is something going to fall through or something like that? And that's where we can come in and say, you know what? That offer's fallen through. Our offer's $10,000, $20,000 less, but we're confident that we can close on it because we've already looked at it, ran the numbers. All we need to do is our inspection. And so it puts us in a better position to make stronger offers, to get stuff at a discount. And because we have a bit of a track record, people understand like, oh yeah, I'd rather just go with someone I know can close this deal versus someone who's just starting out, or like Steve said, is having troubles getting financing. That's how we're seeing a lot of our deals come through right now. And people are so fixated on trying to just find that MLS deal, but it's actually all about the follow up and where they can actually go from there to get the better discounts on the deals. And some of our clients, one of them in particular, it was an off-market deal. Went in there to negotiate it. They said, I think we can do better with a real estate agent. and they listed it with an agent, and then we just watched it come down and down, and we weren't aggressive, and we were just patient and waited, and came down and down, and we got it $75,000 less than what it was listed for. And it was just being patient, had 2 collapsed offers and things like that. And it just allowed us to be in a position of power and not give into, as investors, it's all about the numbers. So we just have a set number, and that's what we're willing to pay. And on the back end of collapsed deals, that's where we can find the numbers that we want.
So neither of you are real estate agents either, are you? So
No.
What the message that I want to share, and you guys are like, you're the same as I am. I'm not a real estate agent. There are some people that say, oh, I'm going to get my real estate license so that I can find the deals first. But you guys absolutely have a lot of techniques to be able to look on MLS. I love that. I wrote that down. How I look at an MLS deal. You took a client through that. I think we take that for granted, but people go, well, Mandy, you must be finding all of this stuff off market. You must be a wholesaler. You must be whatever. I'm like, like, it's not necessarily the way that I do it. So you are just really, who else is an aspect on your power team that's just like where you are today is because of these people on your power team?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're so fortunate to have some absolute badasses in our industry to help and support us. That's all I can say about them.
Yeah.
Without them, we wouldn't be where we are. We like yourself have invested in a lot of personal development and training and real estate development training. So I say like the biggest thing for us is our mentors. We were mentored by some very high level investors, and it cost us to do that, but look what it's created. So I know you've done a lot of the same, and I think we've had some similar mentors. And it's just awesome to see the ability that we've created by doing that. So as a power player on our team, that's something that we don't talk so much about because we always talk about mortgage brokers and real estate agents and accountants. But having mentors to back us up and advise us, probably our biggest thing to date. And then just real estate agent and mortgage broker would say our other one. We use Kyle Green out of Vancouver. Yep. He's very known around Canada as one of the best investment specific brokerages. Yep. I think he said about 70 to 80% of his business comes from real estate investors. And the advantages of working with someone who understands the game is that much more important. When you go to talk to Kyle and you say, hey, I want to refinance my house and buy the next one, he doesn't just say, oh, cool, let's see how we can do that. He actually says, well, what's the 5-year goal then? How many houses do you want to buy? Because that's going to affect the way that we refi and affect the properties that you can buy and set that up as a long-term goal. And so when we look for our power team, those are the people that we look to bring in and support us and our community. So anyone that Steve and I use in our day-to-day, we share with our community. We're not hidden. We're not secret like, oh, this is my guy, you can't use them. It's like, if we use them, we want them out to the world. And Kyle's one of those guys across the board from Ontario to BC that helps and supports a lot of people. And just having that mindset to be able to look long-term, understand what you bring to the table and really turn it another way is amazing. And then Sherry Krause is one of our realtors as well. And she's done a ton of investing here, again, in the Keyspire community. I share those names because they're pretty well known throughout our communities, very involved in the investor world. And they've just been so great. Sherry actually helped us start our meetup and get to where we are today. So we're very grateful for her and just the expertise that she brings in. So having agents and brokerages that understand the game and can support you fully in your journey, holding your hand and just helping you make the right decisions. Those are the 2 biggest pieces, I guess 3 pieces between the mentor, broker, and agent that really just got us where we are.
I'm going to add one more thing in here too. Wow. That I think is just really, really impactful for a lot of people. Trying to do this alone is really hard. And if you are just starting and you're like, sweet, real estate is what I want to do. A, first step is get educated on what kind of strategy you want to execute. B is find your power team. And I think I would throw in as a C is to have a partnership. I think that we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the strengths of the 2 of us. And Randy and I are very different, like the way that we think and the way that we communicate and the way we look at different deals. But because we have a friendship, because we are in this for the long haul, we can keep each other accountable. And then we see things that the other person doesn't. So because we do see things differently, I'll look at that triplex and be like, this is a great deal. And Randy's like, why would we do this? And then I can kind of show him why. And he does the exact same for me. So I think having somebody that you can rely on day in and day out, even if it's just an accountability partner or maybe it's just a mentor, but having somebody that you can push through all the challenges with, and somebody there to lift you up when you're down, and to pick up the slack as well. Like there's been times where I haven't been very productive, and Randy's picked up the slack, and vice versa. So there's a lot of strength in doing this as either a couple or a business partnership as well.
Yeah, that's my Larry. He's my break. He's my break. He's my reality check. He's my like down to the grind when nobody else wants to finish the job. You got this person that's just like, we got to do it. Let's go do it. Let me get it done. So yeah, I think that's a really key thing to be able to add. As we finish up the show, and I thank you for your time, I want to know where you guys are going in 2020. What kind of goal setting do you have? Are you, quarterly? Are you yearly? And what's on the plate for the reinvestors this year?
Bring it home, buddy.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff. 2019 was a bit of an eye-opener for us. We're making the shift from single family to multifamily. Okay. And it's a whole different ballgame when you start playing in that space. You have to make all new connections, and you have to go through a whole different world of trying to get into the boys club to start seeing. That's where you really got to start seeing them off market and make some moves. So 2019 was a bit of an eye-opener for us of how we need to rebuild and stuff. So we are going into 2020 with some bigger goals now, some loftier stuff. We're going to focus a lot on just dialing in our education systems. So we're going to be running more of smaller group communities to help support more people get through that transition from single family to multifamily, or to scale and grow from 1-2 houses to up to that 5 more, like starting to help people actually start build that income up. So we'll be focusing a lot on that. Our meetup group is going to be expanding and growing as well. Awesome. And then we're working on this cool new initiative around giving back in real estate, something that is huge for us. And so we're going to be working on finding ways to actually use real estate to passively give back to charity or organizations consistently through the rental properties that we have. So as I shared earlier in the show, Cole talks a lot about for-purpose businesses, how you build a business that gives back. We're actually going to be doing that with apartment buildings and rental houses of, hey, let's actually start looking at ways that we can use our rental properties and the rental incomes that we make to just continually support organizations or charities in need. That doesn't, if you build that in as a line item in your numbers, then all of a sudden it just makes a lot of sense. We're not talking huge. We're talking something like $10 a door, right? Are you willing to do $120 a year from each property to start growing into this fund? So that's something that we're going to be working on huge in 2020, is actually how living that fulfilled life part, and how we can start doing that and making some bigger impact in the world with our brand, with our company, and how big we're going to be going with a lot of the information that we're sharing. So that's the educational side of things where we're going to grow. And then on the investment side, we're looking at expanding and growing. We looked at 4 apartment buildings in the past month, from anywhere from 20 units to 30 units. We're looking at a 21 unit retirement facility right now. We're looking at a storage facility. So really changing up that. We just locked up another single family home. So just really staying, I say this year's word is going to be focus. We're really just trying to be dialed in focus this year on 3 or 4 things and just go all in on them.
Wow, there you go. Dial it in. And I like that, because sometimes you can have too wide of a spectrum, and you guys are going to be dialed in for 2020, right? What do they call it? 2020, the year of the visionary. So that's you. Yeah. Small little side note, because you never, there's deals that you pass up and 5 years later you go, why the heck? We connected about 3 years ago. We talked about 3 apartment buildings. Yep. I'm telling you guys, I can't drive by those buildings without going, why wasn't I able to share with you the vision strong enough to be able to have bought those? We never did, but they're all doing amazing in great spots, and they would have absolutely been a phenomenal deal. We could have been partners at this point, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, and that's not what we're gonna do going into 2020. So
hey, there's still time.
There's still time. There'll be other investments, that's for sure. And I love your abundance mentality, abundance of money to go around, deals to be able to share, opportunities, people empower teams in time. So definitely a great mindset to be able to share with my audience.
Yeah, we have always had that mindset. It's always the way we've been brought up. We're actually doing a lot more collaboration this year in 2020 to expand and grow. We realize we can't do it ourselves. So partnering with other people like yourselves and things like that to A, get into more investments, and B, spread the messages. So, you know, because of the situation we're in where we can actually train people, like we create investors, right? We don't just go out and like grab someone off the street and all of a sudden like, oh yeah, here's my money, I know everything, like let's do it. We actually take them from the ground up of like, hey, you have some capital in your property. This is how you refinance it. This is what it looks like. Here's what it is. So we're creating investors.
Wow.
So to us, the back end of JV partnerships is abundance forever, because all we have to do is just educate more people and we can get more money. And so at this point, it's not, it allows us to not be in a scarcity mindset of, hey, this is my investor, you can't do this. Like, I don't want to share you with the world, or we don't want to share our secrets or anything like that. It's the more people we can help and train, the more people can actually start living fulfilled lives. And that's just been our company mission and model from day one. And when we look at our core values, we'll never differ from that. It's all about just making people expand and grow and be able to live that fulfilled life of investing in real estate and the passive income lifestyle.
This industry is a sharing industry. You're right. We have some similar mentors. We've had similar people cross. And I know that if I pick up the phone to be able to ask a question, the phone is answered and there's people there to help. And you guys are two valuable resources. I know Larry's been sharing your website and your Facebook page. So I know that the audience has been able to know where to reach you, where to reach out to. And I thank you very much for your time this morning, the early morning that you shared with us. And I wish you all the best for 2020.
You too. Thanks so much for having us on the show, Mandy. We really appreciate it.
So thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of The Full-Time Investor. I'm Mandy Brenham. I look forward to seeing you on another episode in 2020. Until next week, have a great time.